The scar ran from just below her collarbone to the center of her chest, a jagged reminder of the heart surgery that saved her life but left her feeling damaged and unlovable. "This is why no one wants to date me," Eliza whispered, her voice breaking as she lowered her shirt. James stood frozen, his eyes never leaving hers, before he spoke the words that would change everything: "I'm not going anywhere." If you're enjoying this story of unexpected love and healing, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more heartfelt stories that remind us of the power of acceptance and second chances. Eliza Morgan never planned to show her scar to anyone at Horizon Publishing, least of all her employee James Foster. As CEO, she maintained careful boundaries, built walls higher than the Chicago skyline visible from her corner office. But something about the quiet single father who joined her editorial team 6 months ago had slowly dismantled her defenses. It began on a Tuesday evening when most of the staff had gone home. Eliza was reviewing quarterly reports, the weight of running her late father's publishing empire pressing down on her shoulders. The company was struggling, print media fighting for relevance in a digital world, and the board was breathing down her neck about declining profits. James knocked on her open door, his laptop tucked under his arm. "Sorry to interrupt, but I finished the analysis you requested." Eliza gestured for him to enter. At 38, James was older than most of her editors, having joined publishing later in life after his wife died. His 7-year-old daughter Emma was the center of his world, something Eliza had learned during his interview when he candidly explained the gaps in his resume were from being a stay-at-home dad while his wife battled cancer. "You didn't have to stay late," she said, accepting the report. "Emma's at her grandmother's tonight." His smile was warm, genuine. "Besides, I know how important this data is for the board meeting." As they reviewed his findings, Eliza noticed how he'd gone beyond what she'd asked for, identifying potential growth areas she hadn't considered. His insights were sharp, his passion for literature evident in every suggestion. "This is excellent work," she admitted, surprised by his thoroughness. "Just doing my job." He paused, studying her face. "You look exhausted. When was the last time you ate something?" The question caught her off guard. No one at work ever inquired about her well-being. They were too intimidated by her reputation as the Ice Queen of publishing. "I'm fine," she said automatically. James raised an eyebrow. "That's not what I asked." Before she could protest, he was on the phone ordering Thai food. "Trust me," he said, "everything looks better after pad Thai and spring rolls." That night, sitting cross-legged on her office floor sharing takeout, Eliza learned about Emma's science project and James's dream of writing children's books. She found herself sharing stories about her father, how he'd built Horizon from nothing, and the pressure she felt to preserve his legacy. "He'd be proud of you," James said simply. "Not because of the company's success, but because you care so much." Something shifted between them that night, a friendship forming in the quiet hours when the office stood empty. Over the following weeks, they fell into a pattern. Whenever James had a night free from parenting duties, he'd stay late, and they'd work together, their professional relationship gradually warming into something more personal. Eliza met Emma at the company picnic, charmed by the precocious second grader who carried books everywhere and asked 1,000 questions. She found herself looking forward to James's stories about Emma's adventures, even offering advice when he struggled with school issues or nightmares. "You're good with her," James remarked one evening after Eliza had suggested a way to help Emma overcome her fear of public speaking for a class presentation. "I like kids," Eliza admitted. "I just never thought I'd have any of my own." "Why not?" She changed the subject quickly, unwilling to venture into territory too personal, too painful. As autumn turned to winter, Eliza realized she was developing feelings for James, something she hadn't allowed herself in years. Not since her diagnosis at 25, when congenital heart disease had nearly taken her life and left her with both physical and emotional scars. The surgery had saved her, but the recovery had been brutal. Her fiancé at the time couldn't handle the stress and left. Since then, the few relationships she'd attempted had ended when intimacy became inevitable. She couldn't bear the looks of pity or revulsion when partners saw her scar. So she'd poured herself into work instead, becoming the youngest CEO in publishing, earning respect if not affection from her peers. Love was a luxury she'd convinced herself she didn't need. Until James. The night everything changed began like many others. They were working late on a major acquisition proposal, the office quiet except for the hum of the heating system fighting against December's chill. James had brought coffee and pastries from the bakery near his apartment. "Emma made this for you," he said, handing her a handmade Christmas card covered in glitter and featuring a stick figure drawing of Eliza with an impossibly large smile and what appeared to be a crown. "She thinks you're a queen," James explained, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "That's the nicest thing anyone's given me in years," Eliza said, genuinely touched. "She asked if you could come to her holiday concert next week. She's singing a solo." Eliza felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I'd love to." They worked for another hour before James stretched and suggested they call it a night. As he gathered his things, he hesitated. "Eliza, I've been wanting to ask you something." She looked up, heart suddenly racing. "Would you like to have dinner sometime? Not here, not with takeout containers. A real dinner. Just the two of us." The question hung in the air between them. Eliza felt panic rising. She'd been careful to keep their relationship in the safe zone of friendship, despite her growing feelings. "James, I don't think that's a good idea." His face fell slightly, but he nodded. "I understand. Office politics and all that." "It's not that," she said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "It's me. I'm not. I can't." "Can't what?" he asked gently. "Date anyone." She stood abruptly, moving to the window to hide the emotion on her face. "Trust me, no one wants to date me once they know the whole story." James moved to stand beside her, not touching her but close enough that she could feel his presence. "Try me." Maybe it was exhaustion, or the genuine concern in his voice, or simply years of loneliness catching up to her. Whatever the reason, Eliza found herself speaking words she'd never shared with anyone at work. "I had heart surgery when I was 25. Congenital defect they didn't catch until it nearly killed me." Her voice was barely audible. "I survived, but I'm damaged goods." James's expression remained steady, compassionate. "A scar doesn't make you damaged, Eliza." She laughed bitterly. "Easy to say when you haven't seen it." Without thinking, driven by some need to prove her point, to make him understand why she kept people at a distance, Eliza unbuttoned the top of her blouse and pulled it aside just enough to reveal the upper portion of the scar that had defined her adult life. "No one wants to date me," she whispered, the vulnerability in her voice shocking even to her own ears. James's eyes never left hers, not even glancing at the exposed scar. After a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, he spoke with quiet certainty. "I'm not going anywhere." Then, with infinite gentleness, he reached out and took her hand, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "That scar means you fought and won. It's part of your story, not something that diminishes you." Tears filled Eliza's eyes as she buttoned her blouse with trembling fingers. "You don't understand. Every relationship I've tried, they either treat me like I might break, or they can't handle seeing it. I can't go through that again." "I watched my wife battle cancer for 3 years, James said softly. "I changed her surgical dressings, held her hand through chemo, loved every inch of her until the day she died. Do you really think a scar would change how I feel about you?" Eliza looked at him, really looked at him, and saw no pity in his eyes, only understanding in something deeper that made her heart race for reasons that had nothing to do with her medical condition. "I'm scared," she admitted. "So am I," he confessed. "I never thought I'd feel this way about anyone after Sarah died. But here we are." That night marked a beginning. They agreed to take things slowly, mindful of both their professional relationship and the precious heart of a 7-year-old who had already experienced too much loss. Their first date was at a quiet restaurant where James told her about his journey as a widower and single father. Eliza shared the depression that had followed her surgery, the way it had changed her perspective on life and career. "I became obsessed with success because it was the one thing I could control," she explained. "If I couldn't have a normal life, at least I could have achievement." "And now?" he asked. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. "Now I'm wondering if I've been limiting myself all these years." Emma was initially curious about her dad's new friend, asking pointed questions only a child could get away with. "Do you like my dad because he's handsome or because he's nice?" "Both," Eliza answered honestly, earning a giggle from Emma and a blush from James. The first time James kissed her, standing on her doorstep after their third date, Eliza felt something she'd forgotten existed: hope. Not just for romance, but for a future that included more than just work and solitude. Their relationship wasn't without challenges. The board raised concerns about their professional relationship, requiring them to disclose their dating status to HR. Some employees whispered that James was using Eliza to advance his career. The most difficult moment came 3 months into their relationship when intimacy became inevitable. Despite their emotional connection, Eliza froze when James's hands moved to unbutton her blouse. "I can't," she whispered, pulling away. Instead of frustration, James showed only patience. "We have time, Eliza. All the time you need." That night, fully clothed, they lay together on her bed as she told him everything, about the surgery, her ex-fiancé's abandonment, the years of hiding her body from the world. "When you're ready," James said, "I want you to know that I will love every part of you. But only when you're ready." It took another month before Eliza found the courage. One evening at her apartment, she took James's hand and led him to her bedroom. With trembling fingers, she unbuttoned her blouse and let it fall away, revealing the full length of the scar that ran down her chest. "This is me," she said, voice shaking. "All of me." James stepped forward, his eyes filled with tenderness. Slowly, he leaned down and pressed his lips gently against the top of the scar, then straightened to meet her gaze. "You are beautiful, Eliza Morgan. Every inch of you tells the story of your strength." That night, for the first time in years, Eliza felt truly seen and accepted. Not despite her scar, but with it as part of her whole self. As spring turned to summer, their relationship deepened. Eliza found herself becoming part of James and Emma's small family, helping with homework, attending school events, learning to braid hair and bake cookies. She discovered joy in the ordinary moments she'd denied herself for so long. The company benefited too. With James's creative vision and Eliza's business acumen, they launched a successful digital platform that honored Horizon's literary tradition while embracing new technologies. The board's concerns about their relationship faded as profits rose. 1 year after that fateful night in her office, James took Eliza to the botanical garden where they'd had their second date. Emma came along, unusually secretive and giggly throughout the afternoon. As they reached the rose garden, Emma handed Eliza a small wrapped package. "Dad said I could give it to you now." Inside was a children's book, beautifully illustrated, titled The Queen with the Brave Heart. Eliza opened it with trembling hands to find the story of a queen who thought her kingdom wouldn't love her because of a scar on her heart, until a father and daughter showed her that love sees beyond the surface. "James, did you write this?" He nodded, eyes shining. "It's being published next spring. My first book." "It's beautiful," she whispered, tears threatening. "There's an inscription," Emma prompted, practically bouncing with excitement. Eliza turned to the dedication page and gasped. Written there in James's handwriting were the words, "To Eliza, will you make our family complete? Turn the page for the rest of our story." With shaking hands, she turned the page to find a small velvet box attached to the paper. James took the box and knelt before her. Eliza Morgan, your heart is the strongest, most beautiful thing about you, both literally and figuratively. Emma and I can't imagine our lives without you. Will you marry us? Emma stood beside her father, holding his shoulder and nodding vigorously. Through tears, Eliza managed to say the word she'd been afraid to even dream of for so many years, yes. Their wedding was small but joyful, held in the garden behind James's modest home. Emma served as both flower girl and best daughter, proudly walking down the aisle ahead of Eliza. During their vows, James surprised Eliza by placing his hand gently over her heart. "This scar brought you to me," he said. "And I will treasure it, and you, for all of our days." Eliza's dress had been specially designed with a modest neckline that still revealed the very top of her scar, a deliberate choice to embrace all of herself on this most important day. 2 years later, against medical odds, Eliza gave birth to a son they named Thomas, after her father. Though the pregnancy had been high risk, requiring careful monitoring of her heart, the outcome was a healthy baby boy with his mother's determination and his father's gentle eyes. On Thomas's first birthday, as they celebrated with Emma, now a proud big sister, and their extended family, Eliza found a quiet moment with James on the porch swing. "Did you ever imagine this?" she asked, leaning against his shoulder as they watched the sunset. "Not in my wildest dreams," he admitted. "After Sarah died, I thought that chapter of my life was closed forever. And I thought my heart condition had closed mine before it even began," Eliza said. "We were both wrong." James kissed her temple. "Beautifully wrong." Inside, Emma was teaching baby Thomas to clap his hands, their laughter drifting through the open windows. Eliza placed her hand over her scar, the mark that had once represented limitation but now reminded her of possibility. "No one wants to date me," she quoted her words from that night in her office, smiling at how far they'd come. James completed the exchange that had changed everything, "I'm not going anywhere." And he never did. Thank you for watching this story of love, acceptance, and second chances. If it touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories that remind us that our scars, whether visible or hidden, don't define us, but rather show the battles we've survived. Share in the comments if you've ever found love in an unexpected place, and remember, sometimes the things we think make us unlovable are exactly what draw the right people into our lives.